Yes. I have to change my ways. It is the 3rd of May, 2021. And I'm starting my walk. And if you ever wanted to do this walk at the same time, then I shall tell you exactly where I am. I am now, right at this moment, turning into the little road that goes all the way to Le Trullier. Just turned into the road now, coming up toward the little almond patch. So that gives you an idea where I am. Just starting the walk. If you wanted to set this up and walk literally in my footsteps, right now you should be a few meters away from the almonds. Sauvage's almond patch, I think. It's Monday, and I had a bad night. It's not that I didn't sleep well. It's just I woke up at 9, and even before when I was trying to sleep last night, I had all the usual suspects coming to my mind, and it's becoming really kind of a problem. And that was a cop car. And I'm trying to think of a way to change my ways to try and solve this. And right now, if I believe in intuition, just as I'm talking about these problems, a thought flashed in my mind, and it was how much I kind of enjoyed my own lyrics from listening to my 50 album yesterday. It's not, lots of the stuff is not great, but the one thing I did like was I could anyway, for me, there was a little bit of depth in the lyric part, because I know I've taken those lyrics from all the writings I did when I was under the influences of alcoholism. And a lot of the writings in those notebooks, it is, as they say, written in sweat and tears, anxiety. And a lot of the lyrics come from me going through those notebooks. And it kind of meant something, that even if a lot of the music didn't sound perhaps as great as it did when I did it, or it sounded repetitive, but at least some of the lyrics, most of the lyrics actually, really came from somewhere deep. And that's flashing in my mind as I'm talking about my sleeping problems. So I should be aware that there might be a connection there. Some part of me is probably perhaps advising me that there is help to be got from perhaps doing something with music, because I've kind of already got the little keyboard in my room and everything. It's like some part of me is preparing to do more music. But this time I could, as a creative exercise, work more on lyrics, work more on trying to kind of more on the poetry side, more on the strong word side. and have ambient music in the back and just perhaps try and find some way of expressing lines that may be of help. And be of help even to me, because all this stuff was written as a kind of therapy. So, anyway, yeah, trying to sleep, and I keep thinking of all bad stuff from the past. And it's kind of insane the amount of time something like the Drama Centre will pop up in my mind. And I'll start thinking of Paul Bettany, some of the other people, and just how good or bad I was depending on the time, and wondering what people really thought of me. Wondering, was some of the stuff I did really bad? Bonjour. And it's such a insanely useless exercise, because I'm thinking about stuff that happened in 1990 and 1991 or 1992, let's say, that era. My God, it's so long ago, you know. It's so long ago. I was in my 20s. But it's like a tick. Flo talks about ticks getting stuck into the skin of animals and burrowing their way in. It's like something that's burrowed its way in to the inner recesses of my mind, my neurons. I just can't. It keeps coming up and I can't switch it off, or it takes an effort to. And it's not just that, it's other things. It can shift into the bad stuff I did when I was drunk, like leaving Flo in the car park in Narbonne. And it can go back to even earlier stuff. And it's like it really mentally hurts me and I can't sleep. Yes. That's one thing. And then the other is, last night I just seriously could not stop playing chess. I'm playing and I'm losing, and I'm playing and I'm losing. And I just cannot stop myself clicking the button to play another game. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm thinking, well, I'm just not tired. I can't switch off. And I don't want to go to bed because, like I just said, when I lie down in bed, I have all this crap from the past just coming up. Oops. There's a fine big grasshopper on the ground. Big as my finger. They're actually lovely creatures. So this morning I woke up at 9 o'clock and my bottom teeth were kind of aching, and it kind of turns out I think I'd got some lamb that I'd been eating yesterday kind of wedged into a bottom tooth, and it was irritating the gum. It seems to be fine now. It's this one of the space at the bottom teeth where I'm actually missing a tooth, and funny, I never really noticed it much before, but because my gum was aching around that area, I just started noticing it a lot this morning. It's funny. So I woke up at 9. I struggled to go back to sleep. I've still got that damn obsession about the cryptocurrencies. I can't stop turning on the fucking thing. And I'm pretty sure my dreams were affected by all this. They didn't seem bad or anything, but it's just those. It's not quite. It's not quite the deep sleep you need. So today I'm very happy to be out in the air, walking. But then when I go home, the whole thing starts again, you know. That's what I think. Is there anything different I can do? I think tonight I'm gonna push myself to get absorbed in the Transport Fever game. At least it's a different atmosphere. There's no kind of winning and losing in it. It's just more relaxing. And it might put me in just a better frame of mind going to bed. I'll see. There are lots of parapons out today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. There's also the thoughts of the future, you know, which in a general mood like this are obviously a little bit on the anxious side. Not as hopeful as they were a week or two ago. I'm reminded of Eckhart Tolle. He talks about the pain body and the way I enjoy it. I just tripped up and nearly fell on my face. And maybe it's a little bit of a Jungian thing. We slip into this. It's like a complete personality of shit. That would be a nice lyric. We slip into this complete personality of shit, you know, and it is the place where all the crap and fuckery is stored up from, you know, not from the previous week or of the whole fucking shebang. The whole life of crap is stored there. And when we move into that particular entity, it's like clicking on an SD card or some kind of a hard drive on your computer or laptop that's just filled with shit. And every file has something fucking worse than the last one. And when you get into that entity, that's all there is there. You bounce from one to the other. You bounce from one bad story to another, and you really have to shift yourself out of that entity completely and into some different entity. And when I'm walking and talking now, I'm released from all that to a large extent. Because the walks that I have, they're always, you know, as I stand here and look on the house that was just done up here, the old house, there's a certain peace, and my mind is kind of at peace. I'm not obsessing. Sorry about the cough. It's not really a cough. I can't clear my throat. I'm not really obsessing about anything when I'm here, you know. I can feel the air, I can feel the sun. I can hear the birds. Crickets. And while I'm out here, everything is pretty neutral, and it's kind of neutral to good, you know. It really is like, they say, the calming and the soothing medicine of nature. It is like that. Like I've said before, you don't have to stare at and find, you don't have to paint scenes and find, you know, the sense of beauty, but it's a natural remedy here. it affects you in a very profound, deep way. It's like osmosis. It seeps into your psyche and it helps to cure you, which is why I walk every day. It is my spiritual interlude, and when I charge my batteries, all those analogies. And so here, I'm not in that situation. I'm not in that negative entity. But kind of like the discussion I would have had with myself many times with the alcohol, in the alcohol days, when I would say, I'm going to stop drinking for at least a month, and then hopefully that situation that happened last time will never happen again. But it does, and tonight's going to come, and I'm going to try and do something different. But I don't know how to stop these kind of semi-sleepless nights, and I don't know how to stop this crap coming to my mind. And it really seems to be, it's just, as soon as I lie down, it's just, they come, It's like that's their time. Maybe there's some routine or exercises or something, some change in habit that a person can make to stop that. And I'm thinking of what Flo's solution would be. It would be get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. And like I said to myself earlier, I just couldn't do that, because what the hell would I be doing at 8 o'clock in the morning? 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, it's just too much. God, I'd love to get up at 8 o'clock if we were away and we were on holiday, we were camping or something, and we had some kind of something planned out, go for a walk, we have lunch, we visit a town. That's fine, but at the moment. And there's kind of a bigger picture of why exactly these things keep happening, and why can't I stop them? I mean, I can kind of switch off the thoughts pretty quickly when they arrive, but it's just like I say, you could go from one crap file to the next. It's incredible, the shit that could come up. The nonsense, and I guess it's a sense of all the bad either choices or situations you got yourself into, and looking back at it with this kind of, with the, I don't want to say wisdom, experience, I suppose, I have now. It's disturbing to think back on something like the Drama Centre and think, how did you think that was ever a good thing? How did you think you were having fun? How could you be so driven by the notion of fame and fortune that you'd get into something that was quite obviously impossible? How could I do something that was, almost a nightmare? I don't understand. And then, even later, how could I spend, years later, decades later, how could I spend 6 months working in that coral betting shop, in spite of what Flo says that I was, which is true. We just moved in together. I just kind of finished in the video shop because I was a drunk bum, and I really wanted to get a job quickly. I didn't want to scare her off. She was the best thing. It still is the best thing ever to happen to me. Yeah, in all the sea of shit, she's the one good decision I made to call, to ask out. But when I look back at these choices, I'm kind of sometimes at a loss as to, I guess it shows the development in someone when you look back and think, Jesus, how did you not... How did you drag yourself into that drama centre day after day, living like 2 hours away in the tube? How did you go through all that shit where you had to, when we were doing the productions, and you had to try and find things to do for 12 hours, for fuck's sake? You know, how awkward it all felt, and how I couldn't do stuff, and I'm trying to think, well, was there any good moments there at all? And of course there was a few. There was one or two. The only one that I have stored in my memory is when we were doing some Seneca project, and I was doing it in a spaghetti western way, and Henry Fonda was there to help me in spirit, and it seemed to go well. And Christopher Fettis said, "You see, when we see stuff like that, we see that there's a very promising young actor here." And he was talking about me. But my God, those times are few and far between. There's the whole Nietzsche project, but to be honest, I was pretty drunk doing that. And I think the music from Where Eagles Dare kind of did the job for me. The Dionysian. I don't know, will I, in the future, 10, 20 years, if I'm still here, will I look back on all this time and think, Jesus Christ, what were you doing? Living in a country like France, having no one to speak to, having constant stress of not being able to do a job, get another job. Will I look back on this time as well and think, what the fuck was wrong with you and Flo packing up and going somewhere else? What was so scary about going to the west of England or the west of Ireland? You were both clever enough people. You both had money, especially when you started dabbling in the cryptocurrencies. What the fuck stopped you? Did you think it'd be too hard to try somewhere else? And yet, you probably, if you thought about it, you just would have realized it wasn't going to be a big deal setting up another bank account or renting out another place or looking for a job, because it was all going to be in English. It may have actually proved an absolute pleasure for you. But you didn't do it, you spent a decade. Will I really look back and think that? Am I starting to have that realization as I walk here that this is kind of beautiful, but inevitably, but kind of still pointless? And do you really want to spend your future here? Just walking around talking to yourself? I mean, is that all you want out of life? You were often saying, not often, a few times, you said to yourself how nice it would be to be in some kind of a social situation without the alcohol. You said how nice it would be to be with a few people talking and maybe a few girls there, you know, similar age that you would be talking and flirting with. And the reason you can't do anything like that in France is because of the language. Well, if you were in England or if you were in Ireland, you could do courses, you could go and do some writing, you could, just for the social aspect of it. See, the way my life is that eventually that may happen. I may find myself living on the west of Ireland or the west of England. And I may be going to different courses during the week. I may have found some kind of a little job. I'm not even going to speculate on what. And I may end up thinking, fuck, why didn't I do this years ago? Why didn't we both do this years ago? Why the hell did I think staying was the only option? That seems to be the way I am. I get locked into situations and I can't see any alternatives. I am aware in saying all this that, you know, there's an awful lot of people in England and Ireland that spend most of their time on their own as well. And that don't have big groups and spend a lot of the time in a very... God, I can't think of the word. When you're alone. Some people even don't have girlfriends or boyfriends or husbands or wives. But I tell you, the thing for me more and more is the communication. Or lack of. Just to be able to talk. Even small talk. I never thought I'd say that. I never thought the day would come when I'd be missing small talk. But even that, you know, you go to a shopkeeper and you just have something to say. Some kind of a small conversation. Or you can just throw things out there, you know. He says, how are you today? And you say something, well, you say, I couldn't sleep last night. I had all this crap from the past coming back. It's amazing. Kind of ridiculous stuff that, you know, just what you've been talking about, just start up. Something like that and see what happens. I can't do anything like that here. Here it just never goes much beyond bonjour. And I think although I've been kind of avoiding it and thinking it's fine, I think in the long term, I'm not going to cope with that. Year in, year out. I think eventually, perhaps it's like buying a certain type of cryptocurrency. You keep looking and thinking it's okay, I don't need to, but eventually you have to jump, you know. I hope you're not picking up a squeaky shoe on this. Probably are. So you could say that the process of deconstruction in order to create is kind of been shown here a little bit. And the idea that the down moments can actually be, in a way, the beginning of the foundation for something new. That without a certain negative element, you don't get that push that really gives you the motivation to genuinely and seriously start thinking about moving away. Because that's not it really is something I haven't been able to even think about. I haven't been able to bear contemplating that subject in the past. Because it sounded so terrible. It sounded, oh, that way can only lead to bad things. It's you know, just the notion of packing everything. And yet right now, in this frame of mind anyway, and like Flo says, I change my fucking mind from 1 minute to the next. But right now it sounds more like an adventure and like the beginning of a new movie, you know? To just draw a line under all this and move away somewhere else. And maybe in that other place there won't be much job and maybe money will be very tight. But I might be reimbursed by the social aspect, which is really necessary, I think, as time goes by. We need it. As the tractor is cutting the long grass which is going to use for animal feed. I guess it's understandable, you know, we're in lockdown. Have been for months. Connemara has been closed for months. I get up at midday. I play chess and look at cryptocurrencies. I go for a walk. I go home and cook something and eat something. And then I play chess and go to bed. There is really not a lot in the day. It's not bad, but it's the same thing over and over and over, and it's well, it's boring. And the sparks and the experiences that really turn out to be so important, more important than anything else, those things are absent. And those things, I just mean communicating in some way. I mean relating and having someone relate to you, and also just the connection between men and women, you know. It's really important, that whole relationship between not just Flo but other women, to have that sense of these things probably going to sound stupid on this, but it goes back to when I was young and someone complimented me. It was Phil. She just, for the first time, someone said I was good looking. I'd never ever heard it before. And some people would say that's just all ego and nonsense, and I don't think it is. I think someone recognizing you as something kind of special it's so important. It is as much food for the soul as anything else. And I don't have that anymore. I don't have that. There's no sense of Joe. It's a runner. I thought he was going to run into me. I was just looking, and he was like coming straight toward me, and I said, well, I'm walking right at the edge here. I don't want to go out to the middle of the path. I'm going to give you the space. And he just didn't move till the last minute. But you know, those situations, they're, like I say, they're like food for the soul, kind of, when you're in a group, you're having a good conversation, you're watching people, and you know somebody else there is glad you're there. They look forward to you being there in the group, and you're able to converse with them in English. Oh my God, in English. See, there's lots of people in Carrefour I'd love to talk to, but I just can't. I can't string the sentences together Even if I try to do, it's just so awkward. It's so fucking awkward. And the people I'm speaking to, they're kind of immediately, you can see it in their face, they're like, oh my god, what do I do now? It's like he's trying to talk to me, and I understand 2 words out of the whole thing, you know? And so, because I have tried, but for someone like me, it's hard enough to try without that kind of immediate fucking awkwardness, and you know, God, it's like the person looks at you like you've got 2 heads. It's hard enough doing this kind of stuff in English, and so I don't. Yeah, I may well look back on this and be thinking, well, I understand what Flo was on about now for all those years, about kind of quietly losing her mind because she's so fed up. The thing about Flo is, though, she does have relationships, not with guys so much, but that's, Flo is not really the type. She's really into her own things, and even as a kid she was never really into boys. They were never the main thing for her. I have to say, for me, but that might seem strange to people, for a long time girls were the only thing. That's all it was about. From the age of 20 onward, you know, every time I went out, especially at the beginning, the whole point was to get fucking laid at the end of the night. That was the prime objective. As I got older and the alcoholism kind of started creeping in, it was more the need to drink and the need to be merry that was the overriding objective. But second on the list was to get laid at the end of the night. That was always there, you know. And then as you get a bit older, it's just, especially when you're married, I think, just to kind of remind yourself, or to just have a boost in your ego and a boost in your spirit. The ideal thing is to be in a group where, although nothing may happen, nothing happens. I mean, I had this when I was doing the writing group in London. But like I said, it's just the fact that someone in the group says, oh, I thought you weren't going to come today, I'm glad you're here. I mean, it's the kind of feeling I have with Jodie, I suppose, when she's genuinely happy to see me in the AA group and I'm happy to see her. You know, it's a well-needed kind of boost. So if we were in England or Ireland, then we could go out socialising again. I mean, both of us, before we get too fucking old and decrepit. Maybe go to a club or go to a band or something and just be in a situation where, well, I'd like to be in a situation where I'm there. I'm not drinking, obviously. But there's a group across from me drinking and a couple of girls, and they get drunk and start talking, and it turns out one of them likes me. So that sounds really sad. I've really been very honest, though. I mean, maybe it's not the case for other people. Maybe I really am that just incredibly shallow at the bottom of it all. There might be nothing there in me. Maybe I'm just really But I do remember when we went to a club years and years ago, me and Flo, and there were these two girls, and one of them said nice things about me. And Flo said, wow, that girl's really into you, you could tell. And I mean, it sticks with me to this day. That was 20 years ago. You know, I guess in a way, these moments, God bless women, because it is mainly women, I suppose, these are the moments that counterbalance all the crap. You know, they counterbalance all the moments when I was rejected. They counterbalance all the moments when I was an asshole, when I was in situations like the drama centre, when I was out of my depth, no good, and there wasn't really any respect for me. Or other situations like with Flo, when I can't do this and I can't do that, and you feel kind of ashamed and small. And then you think back on all the stupid things you did, and the drinking, and you know, spending years in stupid jobs, and it just makes yourself feel very you feel bad with yourself, you feel useless, you feel really useless. And so when a situation does come along, if it ever does, where someone, and it is, I mean, it's okay if a guy says, I think you're really good what you've done and blah blah blah, but it doesn't have the depth of a woman looking in your eyes and saying, I fancy you, because that's not just, she's not just, you know, another guy is impressed with the fact that you're living in France and the fact you're running a restaurant, and it's all fucking, I don't know if the word is superfluous, but it's all outside things and it's all materialistic. That's what it is. He's happy or proud of you or impressed that you're running a restaurant, but at the end of the day, that's not really anything. But to have a woman like you have a crush on you, it's kind of for your whole being, you know, and it counts more. The thought of someone really having a crush, someone looking forward to seeing you, the idea that when you're around they're uplifted, and for me there's so much, like I've been saying earlier, there's so much weighing me down on the fucking crap side at the moment, with all these thoughts from the past, the kind of sense of frustration and boredom, the lack of being able to do anything here, the lack of being able to talk to anyone. It's like the scales are, you know, really one-sided. And of course I know that Bonjour. I know that a proper situation like that would really help equal up things a little bit. I wouldn't feel so bad about myself. You know, it's kind of, I guess, maybe sounds kind of stupid and very shallow, maybe. Really? You just want some young, or even someone the same age as you, to just say how great you are, and that's enough for your troubled soul. I have to say the honest answer right now is yes. It's obviously great if someone reads something you've done. That's another thing. They go through all the between ourselves and they genuinely have gone through it and know it all and have been inspired by it. That's another kind of recognition. But kind of doubtful that's ever going to happen. So I'd settle for just the simple crush. And the thing in France is there's just no way of getting in that situation where anything like that could happen. Because even if there was someone who thought highly of me, it can never go beyond bonjour. just never will. I've arrived in Orizon, just passing, well, just approaching Carrefour. Contact. 45 minutes. I hope this will be interesting in the future. I hope one day I will have changed and me and Flo will have just gone somewhere else. And I'll be speaking in English. Because there is one thing for sure. It wouldn't matter if I stay here in France another 20 years, I will not be speaking French. If that was going to happen, it would have fucking happened by now. Anyway, I should switch off.